everybody, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. As we are about to review the Juice WRLD documentary Into the Abyss. It's off of HBO Max, and it's a part of their Music Box series. Included artists are DMX and also Alanis Morissette as well are included in this series. So definitely check that out if that's something you haven't done. I wanted to review Juice WRLD just because he was someone that I saw that really impacted my children, actually. I didn't really know much about him. I'm a little old, just a little. And so I didn't really know much about Juice WRLD. And so I wanted to watch this to get to know him and his life. I definitely, of course, became familiar with him, in his unfortunate death, his early death in 2019, when he died of a seizure that was related to drug use and actually police neglect, come to find out through this documentary. But before we get started, I want to, of course, encourage you to subscribe to my channel as I'm going to be doing more, of course, documentary reviews. And also there's lots of great stuff on here as well about mental health from a centered place, psychoeducation, which is just information about mental health from a centered place. That's all my heart's desire is, geared towards providing information from that. So what we're going to go through in this documentary review are just what were some observations for me as a therapist that I saw through this documentary. What are some things that I learned from Juice WRLD's life, and also what are some things that I didn't know about Juice WRLD that, of course, I learned. Now, that giving you spoiler alert, I didn't really know much about him at all. So one, kind of starting there, he is, I did not know how much of a big deal he was. Like his streams, they put a lot of his stats on these during the documentary, like millions and millions of streams. They put a lot of footage of him performing on at concerts, and I'm saying, like, these were big, huge festivals and stadiums he was performing at, and there was no empty seats. He was such a big deal. I did not know also how much of a genius he was. I think sometimes, and I'll say this for me as a person who may be considered an older generation, I'll say that reluctantly, that I am from a different area, hip hop era. So his era that he was in was more of what they would call emo-rap. And so that's not something that I am like I gravitate to, and so I didn't know how much of a big deal he was, but definitely a genius. He freestyled it seemed like he would wake up and just start freestyling. Like, that was just a part of how he built his craft and his artistry. A producer who was working with him stated that he would just turn on a beat and freestyle like 3 or 4 different songs until the producer choose the best song. And so he definitely was a genius in his own right, and building his craft. He was no slouch. He definitely worked at his artistry. He was very smart. He talked about meeting his girlfriend of 10 years in law school, and how he used PCP and after using PCP said, I'm going to quit law school and become a rapper, and he did that. So he was very, very diligent in his artistry, very talented, and the proof is in the pudding for sure, because he was such a big artist. So lots of information I didn't know about him, and so it was refreshing to see that. Some things, and so I guess some key observations that I saw. One of them for sure was early on in the documentary when he talked about not really liking the fact that he was diagnosed with ADHD in 5th grade, and felt like he was, if any kid was being active in a classroom, isn't a kid supposed to be active in a classroom? And so this is a really controversial statement, right? A lot of people have a lot of strong opinions about ADHD in the traditional classroom. The traditional classroom, one is, I feel, as a therapist, is probably asking a high order for children to sit for long periods of time, right? And concentrate on things. And so some children and I should say some teachers find ways to make learning active and engaging, and some teachers don't. And so that can put any kid in a space where they're like daydreaming or inactive or not being focused, right? 5th grade, to be honest with you, is I won't say a late diagnosis of ADHD, but typically what I have seen is that children who start school, maybe 5, 6, tend to get a diagnosis of ADHD. There we go. Tend to get a diagnosis of ADHD, and also in middle school, that's where you see it, because then they go from a place where they are in one classroom with the elementary teacher to now multiple classes and feeling overwhelmed and just flooded and being overstimulated. And so I wish what I wish, and I see it so often, is that people who are diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't know if he does have it or had, if he truly had that diagnosis, don't have enough information to make that declaration. What I do find is unfortunate is that oftentimes the psychiatrist or doctor doesn't sit with the family and talk to them about exactly what ADHD is. It is more than just hyperactivity. It's more than just focus. It affects your everyday life, your planning, your emotions, your decision-making skills. ADHD, it affects so many different areas, and is an executive function disorder. I have a series on ADHD you can check out that. But so that is what I feel was like, as a therapist, like, man, I wish, this may have happened, but it seems he felt like he wasn't given really an understanding about ADHD, and so I see it so often. And so this is an assumption I'm making, that nobody sat down with him or his mother to really talk about it. He did talk about being diagnosed, being prescribed medications to help, but he, just felt like that diagnosis wasn't the right fit, or felt like he was just being put in a certain box because he was inactive. He was an active boy in class. Another observation I saw was that he's pretty loyal. Having a girlfriend of 10 years, that speaks a lot to him, even to his circles that he was hanging with. He was very, very loyal to his friends and to his fans. That was something that I found very enduring about Juice WRLD. One of the observations that I also saw was that he seemed to be pretty obsessed with death. This is not uncommon, unfortunately, with young individuals who are going into hip hop. You see this even with we're going far as big as Biggie and Tupac. Like, they were very kind of obsessed with death. They definitely saw it a lot, and it's unfortunate that with him talking about it as much, and even saying like that people won't live until, or make it until they're, after they're 21, and then of course that's happened to him. He seemed to be, again, I don't want to diagnose him, and I because I don't have enough information to do so, but being obsessed with death is something that definitely we would like categorize or characterize as someone who who is clinically depressed. I don't know that to be true. There's a lot of things that definitely shows that in his daily living functioning. We're talking about sleep. Juice WRLD was pretty much all over the place. We saw there's so much footage of him rapping a lot, working a lot, and then using substances a lot. Like, that's pretty much all we see. Of course, this is a documentary. It's being edited and the like, right? But we see a lot of that behavior. So he is kind of in this whirlwind, and that's pretty much the business of the music world. But he definitely has this obsession with death, and it shows in his music, and also could potentially lend to the fact that he may have been even passively suicidal. His girlfriend made that declaration, when talking about his death, saying that he knew that this would happen. He knew that this would happen. And so, to talk about his substance use, I mean, he was very upfront about it. And in the later part of the documentary, we see where his dependence on lean became something that was unmanageable for him. His girlfriend was really trying, and even his managers were trying to monitor him. Like, he would ask for a certain amount and they would decrease it, or say, don't give it to him, and then that would cause an argument, or he would just sneak and get it. And so he seemed to definitely be using the substances to manage something. My assumption is definitely probably trying to manage his thoughts. If you think about just the mental activity it takes to just freestyle on a level that he was doing, it sounds like he had a very active mind, and that he was really trying to manage those thoughts. A lot of times, individuals who are, obsessed by death and having those negative thoughts being their mind, they want to escape them. They want to not be in that place, because it can bring a lot of feelings attached to those thoughts, those heavy thoughts. And so being under substance, or being under the influence of a substance, kind of helps to give that escape and give some relief from all of those thoughts. And you saw he was also just even saying, once things slow down, which things never look like they were slowing down, but he was talking about trying to get some help because he was, feeling so anxious and feeling so overwhelmed, the fast pace and the high demand that was, really being put on him. But unfortunately, he was around a lot of people who use drugs, and even one of his friends talked about that during the in the documentary, we just did it together, and that's what we did, and I didn't see anything wrong with it, because that's just what we did. And so it can be a lot to manage, and so it's really challenged. It's a challenge to, one, receive a diagnosis, not agree with it, and then kind of run away from a system, because you feel like they are putting a diagnosis on you that you disagree with, and at the same time being in a space where you're trying to manage things on your own, and things get away from you. And so then trying to navigate, okay, now how do I do this? And that seems to be where he was, and unfortunately just didn't get the help he needed in the time that he needed it. So here are the next part, some of the things that I learned from his life. One of the things is transparency seems to definitely be his superpower. He touched so many people. His mom talked about that. She's like, I don't listen to his music, so I didn't know what he was talking about. But a lot of people, she's like, got so many letters, so much information from people who were really touched by him, and how their music helped to even save them from suicide and help them with their mental health. And his authenticity was so powerful. He he came from a place that was real. He never, you never got the the sense that he was trying to be something he wasn't, or make more of himself than he was. He was just very authentic, and that is what I feel like made people gravitate to him. So many times people are just trying to be something they're not, and he just wasn't about that. And that made people really just, um, especially young people, they look for something that's real, and they look for something that they can connect with, and he definitely provided that for them. And so he was himself all the time, all the time. And so that was something that was really refreshing to see. Juice WRLD, he was born December the 2nd in 1998, and he passed in December 8th, 2019. And it's unfortunate. He had a seizure, and through the documentary, they stated that, they felt like he could have been rushed to the hospital beforehand, but because this was happening at the time where the plane was being raided by the police, that they did not give him the, it was alleged that they did not give him the medical attention that he needed. And it's really sad to see, that a young life was cut so short, and that was, again, touching so many lives. For any of you, I'm going to, of course, have suicide prevention information, and also mental health warm lines in the description of this video, so that if any of you do need any support or assistance, to definitely reach out. Definitely watching this documentary definitely helped me to learn more about him and appreciate his life, and that's what this this part of my channel is all about. I believe, and I'm a firm believer, that our lives and our story of our life is so powerful and so impactful, and it's a part of us learning the lessons of people's lives, so that we can apply it to our own lives. The best experience is somebody else's experience, and so to learn from anybody, even me as a therapist, can learn something from Juice WRLD. One, to apply to my life, and then also to help someone else. So definitely, for yourself, even reflect how Juice WRLD has touched your life, or what you can learn from him, and so we can honor him as he unfortunately his life was cut so short. Thank you guys so much for watching, and of course subscribe to my channel as we have more reviews, and again, psychoeducation from a centered place. All right, you take care. Peace.